Hi, I'm Rajesh and I lead the talent acquisition function for Infosys. A very warm welcome to this special edition of Knowledge Hour with Infosys, celebrating the International Women's Day. We're excited to have you join us as we dive deeper into the challenges we face and the solutions we have on hand on our journey to making our workplaces more gender equal and balanced. Research has time again proven that organizations with diverse workforce perform better on all parameters. Actually, diversity has a greater impact on financial performance than any other organizational demographic factor. So, what are the biggest challenges we need to overcome together? And how do we go about it? Everything from the little things to larger strategic perspective is going to be our focus of conversation with our distinguished panel of women leaders from Infosys. While the organizations around the world have made significant progress towards becoming more diverse and inclusive, there is still a lot to be done. And it is important to learn and share our experiences so we can continue the dialogue and collectively keep getting better at it. As we jump right in, type in your questions in the comments panel. We would address these questions towards the end in our Q&A section. It is my great pleasure to introduce our first panelist, Martha King. Martha is Executive Vice President and Chief Client Officer for our Retirement Services COE. Martha, thank you for joining. And I would start requesting you to share your insights from your own professional journey. And keeping in mind this year's theme for International Women's Day, what are the current issues standing in the way of gender equal workforce that you would choose to challenge? Martha.
Rajesh, thank you. And it's really a pleasure to be here with everyone. I would just say briefly, with respect to my own career, while it was in finance, not in technology, a technical field nonetheless. So expectations of a depth of technical knowledge were present throughout my career. But things that really helped me as a woman early on in my career was the fact that people actually before we were talking about something called diverse slates for open positions, I had people advocating for me and recommending me to apply to opportunities that I might not otherwise have been made aware of. And so I was truly a beneficiary of that very early on. I also benefited from having mentors and a sponsor or two who really kept an eye out and for opportunities and advocated for me in places where I wouldn't be present and able to advocate for myself. So that's just a little bit of how I feel I benefited throughout my career journey and why I was able, frankly, in at least in part, to attain very senior levels in an organization over a period of decades. With respect to choose to challenge, there are still many challenges for women in the workforce and women rising up in the workforce. And I would actually say that organizations still have work to do to committing to requirements of diverse slates of qualified candidates for every open position, and having diverse panels of interviewers as well. Those two things can make an enormous difference in just driving the amount of diversity that populates organizations at all levels. So that's my choose to challenge. Thanks, Rajesh.
Fantastic, Martha. Thank you for that. Aruna, our next panelist, leads the global diversity and inclusion along with sustainability governance at Infosys. Aruna, you've had a long career at Infosys. What are your perspectives on your professional journey and what do you choose to challenge?
Thank you very much, Rajesh. In the last 21 years of my journey at Infosys, I think one of the biggest takeaways for me as a person is the opportunities that I have actually been provided to explore various facets that will allow me to really shine and excel in my work. I mean, I can't think of another organization that would give you opportunities to work with the community, work with governments, work in policy, work internally in the organization. And all of that has been made possible thanks to the opportunity landscape that I have actually experienced. I have always been very determined, ambitious to look beyond what I'm currently doing. And I think in the last 30 years have been very rewarding, as far as that is concerned. As far as my choose to challenge perspective, I'd like to invite every woman to challenge any self-limiting beliefs that she might have. And I would like to invite corporations the world over to relook their definitions of equity at the workplace. That's my choose to challenge.
Fantastic, Aruna. That's very inspiring. Allow me to bring our next panelist on. Lara Salamano is the senior digital strategist at Infosys and also leads our design and innovation hub at Providence, Rhode Island in the US. Share your insights and what do you choose to challenge?
Thank you so much, Rajesh, and thank you for having me. I'm really proud to be here representing this force of female leaders around the world. It's an incredible honor. I've had an incredible career, and I'm going to say that one of the biggest drivers of that are the female leaders that have been in my life. I spent many years at Viacom, and I had an incredible boss. And when I found her, she really was the wind beneath my wings. I trusted her. She drove me. And I think when you have a boss and someone that you can count on to have your back, it really goes a long way. And I just watched how strong she was, and it made me a stronger leader. I became very strategic in that role. I was lucky to move on to work for the governor of Rhode Island, one of the few governors, female governors that we have. I was thinking about the fact that we have our first female vice president, that we've never had a female president here in the United States. And that's unbelievable because female leaders are really amazing. And I would say my choose to challenge is around diversity and leadership in technology. I am often the only female in many of my meetings, and it is important to have diversity, period. Diversity is, our clients are diverse, the community around us is diverse, so we are not just serving ourselves, we are serving people that come from different walks and different mindsets, and that's why it's incredibly important. Thank you so much, Rajesh.
Thanks, Lara. Thanks for that wonderful insights. Next panelist is Nandini. Dr. Nandini is the Group Head of Organization Development at Infosys. And again, somebody who spent a long time at Infosys, not just working, but designing the core of HR at Infosys. Dr. Nandini, same question to you. Your insights and what do you choose to challenge?
Yeah. Hi. Good morning, good evening, everyone. And thank you, Rajesh and the team for this wonderful opportunity. And it has been really incredible listening to the other fellow panelists and their journey. Like so many of them said, when I look back at my career and when I started out my career, I didn't think I would make it here. And the reason why I stand here today is really because the entire ecosystem, the ecosystem of Infosys, the ecosystem of family, always making me believe that I can do it and I need to make it happen and I will make this happen. Because at various inflection points in one's career, especially for a woman, there comes a stage where she starts to believe that she might not be able to do justice to both personal as well as professional life. She might start to believe that this is not worth it and one will suffer. And very often that's when the trade-off happens and the leaning is always towards the personal life. And this is because women always want to, and the research we all must have read in the HBR that came out last year is that women will apply to a position or a job only when they believe they are 100% ready. And it is no different in the current situation. Women want to believe that they are 100% there for anything that they need to do, be it the personal or the professional life. I think that's something which, my ecosystem helped me believe that it's okay. It's about balance. You just need to do you be the best. And you know what? The women's best is perhaps even more than 100%. But that's really the confidence that we need to give women. And that is what I got in the ecosystem of Infosys. Like Lara said, I had a fantastic women manager who always made believe doing your best, but giving up is not an option. My family always stood by me and said, giving up is not an option. So that's something I want to say. That's a message that I want to send across to all women. And that is something that I want to challenge all women is to not to give up at those, those most important vantage points in your professional and personal life and believe that whatever you can do, the best you can do is good enough and move on. So it's very, very important for women to have that confidence, to have that belief and have the determination, because once they overcome that, the rest of the journey becomes very, very easy.
Very well said, Dr. Nandini. Don't give up, and the rest of the ecosystem to support. Great start to the session. A quick reminder to all our viewers and audience: please type in your questions in the comment section, and we will pick those questions up towards in our Q&A section towards the end. And what Dr. Nandini said is a great segue to my next section. The latest McKinsey Women in Workplace study has established that COVID-19 has certainly had a much higher negative impact on our gender diverse workforce. It's always on workplace with added responsibilities of home and caregiving tends to limit the working woman's ability to bring her whole self to work. Let's talk about it. My first question regarding this is to you, Lara. How has working remotely impacted you at both personal and work life?
It's been incredibly challenging. I think it's obviously been incredibly challenging for everyone. But I am the primary caretaker. As much as my husband is wonderful, he is always around. He works from home as well. The kids are always going to come to me. The lines are blurred. There is no way that you can compartmentalize work and home. That just doesn't happen anymore. Kids are now home all day long on many days, including today. I'm one of the lucky ones that my kids go to school. But it's really been incredibly challenging. I feel like you are on 24/7. You're a constant project manager. You want to do, best in all roles, and you feel like you can't really do, you're not proficient at anything. And I think that's the, incredibly hard thing. There's never a break. You go right from your day, right into dinner, right into, and again, the life is just harder at work. I was around people all the time. I received, a lot of support from the folks around me at work. We were in front of customers. The energy that you get from that, that's all been lost. And it is, redefining what our, roles are now and how we're moving forward and what our days are comprised of. And it has been a completely upside down shift. And we've all had to do it with a smile on and keep going. And again, at the end of the day, try to feel like we're doing the best we can. I'll say for me, it is yoga. Yoga has been my godsend. I practice and I am very mindful. I try to be present. And so I highly recommend yoga for all of my female and non-female partners out there. Thank you, Rajesh.
Fantastic, Lara. Self-care is very important, especially during COVID-19. Nandini, the McKinsey report also states that the pressure of pandemic are driving some employees, especially working mothers, to consider downshifting their careers or leaving the workforce altogether. What, in your opinion, can be done to reduce this impact or negative impact?
So I think, and I see this even in my team because women come with a lot of their own compulsions and every single situation is very unique. So there is no one size fits all approach. I think a little bit of more empathy from the manager, more concern, more understanding of what the situation is, and really flexibility at its heart, right? Not flexibility which is a one size fits all flexibility, because I have someone in my team who has a young baby or a small child, and there's no nanny or a creche, so she needs to attend to the child during the day, and there could be someone else whose situation is very different, grown up kids needing to give them some attention on the study time, etc. So situations are different. I think a little more empathy, a little more nuanced approach to each individual, and giving them the flexibility and letting them know that it does not matter. As long as the deliverables are in place, it does not matter how you work, when you work, which style you work in, it does not matter. I think that assurance, that confidence, that real flexibility is what women need. And the moment they understand that the organization is trusting them with that, the rest would be taken care of. And I think that is something I see we have done very well at Infosys, and I'm sure many corporations across the world are doing the same. But I think that nuanced approach and the confidence to women is all it requires advice for women see through this challenging times?
Absolutely, Nandini. I can't vouch for that approach. Given a large diverse workforce on my team, the workforce I have in my team. Just a quick reminder: please type in your questions. We will answer them towards the end of this discussion. Moving to our next section. What are the challenges faced by women at workplace? Martha, bringing you in. How can we collectively work towards increasing the percentage of women in leadership roles? What would be your advice to women aspiring for leadership roles based on your own experiences?
Rajesh, it's a great question. And I think one of the ingredients that really matters is making sure that we're finding opportunities and encouraging women to go into leadership opportunities early in their career. One of the things that we learned at my prior company was, the longer that promotion is before it comes, that affects how much a woman is earning. And so then when a woman gets to maybe this crucial point in her life where she's now confronting a decision about children and caring for them at home versus remaining in the workforce, it can become a more financially difficult decision. However, for the women who are promoted early and frequently, that decision financially becomes less of a difficult one. And so I'd like us to, as corporations around the globe, to do a better job helping women find their way to leadership earlier in their careers, and then nurturing that in them for the continuing period of their careers. Because once women move into leadership, it's much rarer for them to move out.
Great, Martha. Thanks a lot. And that brings me to another important topic, which is the unconscious bias and discrimination. What is your take on unconscious bias in the workplace, and how would you recommend managing it or mitigating it completely? And as a leader, how do you enable your team to mitigate the bias which creeps in?
So this has become a very common term, thankfully. I think it's something that we all need to think about all the time. And this isn't just about ethnicity or gender. I mean, it's ageism. It's even groups that we think are more privileged. And this is really, a hard topic that I think, again, we have to make it a consciousness. We have to be mindful about it. We have to think about it all the time as leaders, because whether we think we do it or not, we do. We may give someone an opportunity because they are privileged or we think they're better, but we can't think like that as leaders. We have to think about how we go into everything as being equal and pure. I've had women ask me in the past, how can you remain true to yourself? How can you still be? Because I am a kind leader. I am a kind leader. I will always choose kindness. And I think as a female, that can sometimes be frowned upon. Again, it shouldn't be. And for women to say, I can't actually bring my own self to work. I have to change who I am. I may not be aggressive. I may be quieter. I may be a thinker. Again, as leaders, we have to give the space for people to be themselves and to bring themselves to work. And that's when we're going to get the best product. Again, I said earlier, our clients are diverse. Our clients are not just who we are. They are very different people, and we must walk in a very diverse line. So I really do think it is incumbent upon us as leaders to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. We have to, and I think that's even more challenging now that we are at home and now that we're not in front of our folks all the time. It is very challenging, but your teams have to know that you have an open door policy, that they can trust you, that if they've felt they've been in situations, I've had many people approach me and say, I felt uncomfortable, and you have to be able to address those things, and you have to have people feel that they can come to you and speak to you about it. And again, as leaders, I know that it's not intentional all the time, but we need to really think about this and really understand. And I know that empathy was talked about. We are in the business of empathy for our employees, empathy for our partners, empathy for our clients.
Oh, fantastic, Lara. Be yourself and allow everybody to be themselves, right? Great advice. Thank you. Other aspect of diversity is to have inclusive workplaces. Aruna, Infosys as an organization has led many initiatives on fostering gender inclusivity. Could you talk about some of these programs and how has it helped to create a more inclusive workplace at Infosys?
Thank you, Rajesh. I just loved what Lara said about I will be a kind leader and I will bring myself, my whole self to work and be who I am. I think a lot of what we're doing is about helping people realize their true potential. And the idea is to allow people to express themselves and be themselves. We're doing many things, Rajesh. So there's a whole slew of programs which we group under the developmental interventions. Some of them are specially designed for women. So including, sponsorship programs. Martha made a reference to that earlier on. Mentoring programs. We've recently launched a very, very special program, Rajesh. It's called I Am the Future for women leaders at Infosys. It's a 12-month program in partnership with Stanford. That's just to say that we're leaving no stone unturned to continue to strengthen the development effort. Apart from this, of course, Lara made a mention that there have been times that she's been the only woman in the room in a meeting of technologists. So we're doing something to address that, Lara. We have a huge flagship program. It's called Women in Technology. And there's a lot of work that we're doing to strengthen the participation of women in the digital business of the organization. I'm also happy to tell you that we've collaborated with NASSCOM to launch something called the Women Wizards Rule Technology Skilling Initiative. It is a national level initiative which promises to train 10,000 women in the new and emerging technologies for India. Our Restart Her program, Nandini was making a reference to flexibilities. So the Restart Her program is about embracing, allowing women to come back after career breaks for any length, for any reason. And it offers mentoring on the job and experiences in live project environments. Infosys has been a huge champion of strengthening or extending the maternity leave for India. The 6-month maternity leave that came in through the Maternity Amendment Act. And we have one of the strongest return to work post maternity programs ever. Including work flexibilities, modular work from wherever. But I think what Nandini said was so true. Empathy or empathetic leadership is so critical to help women find their feet once again at a time like this. We also have a very unique infrastructure at Infosys owned campuses. It's called MumsNet. It's physical infrastructure, and we call it the integration space, allowing women returning from maternity to have a safe space to integrate back into work. So there's tons of stuff, Rajesh, and we're continuing to do more.
It's fantastic to hear that, Aruna. And the other element which I would bring Nandini in is how do we design for it, right? How do we incorporate gender inclusivity in our job definitions, for example? And how does Infosys enable career opportunities for women to grow and succeed? Nandini?
Yeah. So job descriptions by itself, we've been very, very conscious of keeping it gender agnostic, gender neutral, because it is an equal opportunity for all. But if there is something that I would like to call out, it is just that in these job descriptions, the more you make it performance expectation based, the more it tends to appeal to the women workforce, because they want to know what are the clear expectations of the job, what are the clear expectations of the role, and that makes them comfortable to apply to a new organization, to a new position, because like I said earlier, they want to be very confident and comfortable that they are really 100% ready for the job that they are planning to take up. So that is really what we have done. We have made sure, not just in job descriptions but across our internal spaces, be it performance management, etc. We've tried to keep it very, very outcome oriented. The performance expectations are very clear, so that makes everyone comfortable, and it also obviously aids us in many other areas as well, not just in terms of gender inclusivity. As far as the platforms are concerned, I think what we have tried to do is to create self-led platforms in Infosys where you navigate where you want to go, which direction you want your career to take on. So as an individual, I can go into my digital career platforms and look at what is the next best option for me, which is the next best technology, which is in line with what I have, which is also more futuristic. Where can I find those opportunities? How can I connect them, the workforce, be it men or women, and especially women, to these opportunities? Mentors whom they can leverage on. So the way we have created our internal ecosystem and the platforms is really to make it self-enabled, self-led, and so that you can navigate yourself through it, and you can navigate through choices, you can navigate through options, you can navigate through opportunities. You have a plethora of spaces that where you can decide how you want to navigate your personal learning, career opportunities, and other choices. So that's how we have made it. We've made it at the disposal of every employee, and more so for the women employee if they want to tap onto a larger platform.
This is extremely heartening to hear, Nandini. Design for inclusivity, allow the freedom to individuals, and build an ecosystem around it, as Aruna spoke, so that people feel comfortable about navigating and taking charge of their own careers. Fantastic. That brings me towards the final questions for our discussion, and this is to you, Martha. Martha, you mentioned finance and tech. What is your advice to young women who are currently studying or at school, college level, and aspiring a career in the tech industry? What would be your advice to them?
Rajesh, I'm going to actually go a little off script. And actually, I just want to go back to something Nandini said, which was around the performance-based culture and how important that is for women in the workforce and their ability to aspire and rise up. I think that is so important. So everyone knows what they're aiming at, number one, but then our expectations of leaders, that it's not just results as it relates to business results or financial results, but also results as it relates to the kind of leaders any of us are when it comes to our own people on our teams, and how good a job are we doing developing people on our teams, helping them find their next opportunities for a new assignment. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that. But now let me get to the question you asked me, which is about education. And I'm so heartened today because just wherever you are in the world, there are so many more opportunities for all of us, men and women, to continue our education, whether it's through formal degree programs or whether it's through certificate programs. And I would just encourage anyone listening and encourage all the young women in your life who are in a professional field to just pursue those opportunities whenever they arise. And then if they're not showing up, ask questions and find them. Because when I look at a candidate for a role, one thing that really speaks to me is how much they're self-initiating their own continuing development. And today, are continuing our development, whatever your age, wherever you are in life, it's never been easier. So I think it's vitally important for people, and particularly in more technical fields like tech, like investment management, etc.
No, thanks for that advice, Martha. Lara, same question, but slightly different. What would be your advice to women who have recently started in tech to grow and further their careers in this industry?
I think to Martha's point, continued education, there are a lot of opportunities to do that. Again, Nandini talked about Reskill, Restart. That's a wonderful opportunity that anyone can take advantage of. But I really do think finding your female mentor or mentor, it doesn't necessarily need to be a female, but I think finding your mentor and having the roadmap. Martha mentioned goals. We really, and us as leaders, it is incumbent on us to really support, drive, outline. Tech is complicated. It's a complicated place when you have not grown up in it, when you have not spent 20 years in it. So I do think as leaders, we need to help to, push these folks along. Again, we are an amazing company here at Infosys, hiring, folks right out of college. What an incredible opportunity. But again, it's a scary time, female or male. So I really do think it is finding a mentor, finding someone you can count on, and helping them, having them help you to find your way, find your path, and map out what your true goals are and figure out what you're good at, what is you're naturally good at, then you're always going to be successful.
Great, Lara. Thanks for a wonderful discussion, Martha, Nandini, Lara, Runab. This has been very insightful. Couple of quick points before we take the audience questions. We have posted the link about Infosys diversity and inclusion efforts on the chat window. Please go and have a look on all the initiatives at Infosys. Let's collectively learn from each other and make it better. We've been incredibly lucky. A lot of questions are flowing in. So let me jump right in with the first question. This one is for Lara. Organizations and industries and some teams specifically are men dominated. What are your tips to help women overcome challenges by women in such teams or environment?
It is very true. And I'm going to say that I'm very lucky where I sit. I oversee our design studio in Providence, Rhode Island, and 90% of that studio is female, and it is amazing to work side by side. But I would say again, you find your people, you find your mentors, you find your friends, you find the folks that you trust, and you build relationships that way. It is hard. It is hard because you be sitting at a table, and sometimes it's not that I'm a female, it's that I actually approach things maybe a little differently. I might be a little quieter. I may not, I'm someone that's going to take things in. So I say, just come with a good attitude, with I can do it, within, be present. Be aware and don't be afraid, and you will do a great job.
Fantastic. Thanks, Lara. Our next question is for Nandini. Nandini, how can we make women feel safe to take career risks?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Like I said, just give them the assurance or the confidence that all they need to do is to do their best. Women very often, like I said, get overwhelmed with the expectations, on multiple fronts. So that's when they start having doubts and they back out. If there are managers, especially, and I think a manager's role is extremely pivotal. And like I said, I was extremely lucky to have a most dynamic women manager whom I could look up to and learn from. But it doesn't matter. Not everyone will have the same opportunity. But I think if they can just give them the assurance that you will tide over this period, just do your best, that's good enough. The rest you can catch up later. I think that's the only assurance women need for those intervening few years, 2 to 3 years. That's really the most important stage in a women's career.
No, absolutely agree. I think encouragement and constantly saying that you have it, just go for it. I think it makes a huge difference in everybody's life, and especially for women. The next questions come in from Martha. Martha, what are the challenges women face when trying to take up entrepreneurial roles, and how can they handle those?
So, when I think about entrepreneurial roles, and I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to be a founder of a business during my career at Vanguard. So it was an entrepreneurial opportunity inside a large company. And when I think about what makes successful entrepreneurs, it's really several things. And this isn't gender specific, but one must be great at setting goals and driving towards execution and leading teams of people to accomplish those objectives. So that means, we need to be great at devising what those goals are and then communicating them clearly to our teams. But I'd also say when someone's in the middle of an entrepreneurial opportunity, oftentimes things change around you, and what you assumed would be true sometimes isn't. And that means we have to be adaptive and resilient and able to change course or do a course correction, as I like to say, and make sure the team is with you. So I think the best entrepreneurial leaders are great at creating clear goals and communicating them with the team and engaging the team around them to really strive together to achieve goals. That means communication transparency. That means willingness to admit you don't have all the answers sometimes. And I think the best leaders, male and female, are willing to admit that they don't always have all of the answers. And then resiliency and adaptability. I think those are some of the most important things, Rajesh.
Fantastic, Mata. Thank you so much. The next question is for Aruna. Aruna, you did speak a little bit about this, but what are the specific programs or initiatives Infosys have for working mothers or women returning to workforce post-career breaks?
Okay, so thank you, Rajesh. Women returning to work post-maternity actually at Infosys have very, very special initiatives. In fact, our effort starts well before they proceed, on maternity leave itself. So right from leave extensions, flexibilities, again, based on individual circumstances, we provide some of these flexibilities. But I think more than that, the integration period, the 12-month integration period after the woman returns from maternity. I spoke about the Mums Net facility that we have, which is physical infrastructure. It contains, desktops. It has an interaction space. It has, it has everything that you need to actually be, lactation rooms, etc. So returning mothers can feel really comfortable there. While they integrate back to work. There's, of course, Lex, our learning platform. So there's tons of learning. There is also mentoring. We also have an app. We call it iMother, and it allows women to stay connected, stay relevant, and actually stay inspired. So there's an opportunity for them to network, listen to other women's stories, and get inspired, take advice about their careers, get some coaching, and a whole lot. We also have women who return after, for whatever reason, they've taken breaks from their careers and they come back. And I mentioned the Restart Her program. All of these programs are actually available on our website that I think Rebecca has kindly shared on the chat window. So the Restart Her program actually focuses on women returning. And I think one of the important things that we do there, Rajesh, is we do a little more hand-holding to restore confidence. Oftentimes, women who've taken a break from their careers, while they're interested to come back, they are also slightly wary of the kind of work, what it actually entails. They're unsure. And so the Restart Her program actually has a hand-holding period, call it probation if you will, but it has a period that allows women to come in, experience the workplace once again, and make a choice on how they would like to engage and continue. We've hired, I think, more than 600 women through the Restart Her program, I think, pre-COVID, pre the lockdown, yes.
Thanks, Aruna, for detailing those initiatives. Nandini, the next question goes to you. What steps organizations take to address compensation disparities between genders?
So the 3 P's to pay, right? Performance, position, and the person. So the more you focus on these 3 aspects, the more any bias, any kind of disparities will get evened out. So position and performance is extremely important, irrespective of whether it's a man or a woman playing that job or a role. The compensation should be for the position, followed by performance. So these are some things that we do very, very consciously at Infosys, and I've seen this all through my career. And we have solid mechanisms in the organization to ensure that there is no scope creep, there's no bias, there's no discrimination that comes in any part of the organization. So these are some simple things that anyone can do, and many corporations consciously focus on it today, and I'm aware of it. But yeah, position and performance is really what we need to focus on when it comes to pay.
Thanks, Nandini. Next question goes to Lara. More than ever before, work life and home life have become connected, and you spoke about it, Lara. And use of video calls and other tools may mean that employees are facing a loss of privacy. How can companies support their employees and foster a safe working environment?
I think it was mentioned before. Again, as leaders, you need to be able to go to your leader to say, I need X, Y, and Z. X, Y, and Z isn't working for me. I think, again, what this has given us is a bit of control for ourselves, where, you should be able to say, I cannot do a meeting here. I know I have a woman that I work with, and she blocks out noon every day because she knows that she needs to give her kids lunch. So I think, again, we are in this environment where it is very complicated. It is loss of privacy. We are working, again, my door is locked because my cats and my kids and everyone will be in here. So I think we're going to have to take it on ourselves. Again, company expectations are that you are there, you are on video chat, but if you can't, I hope that you can go to your leader and say, this is why I can't do this. This is what I need. This is the privacy that I need. And really push that for yourself. Again, we have to be our own advocates, especially right now.
Absolutely, Rara. Quick reminder to audience, if there are more questions, please type them in and we will pick them up. But we have a next question coming from Martha. Martha, the figure from McKinsey report also shows that improvements in diversity do not necessarily lead to an improvement in inclusion. How can companies ensure initiatives cover a wider remit than just attracting a diverse range of candidates and make the employee experience more inclusive?
Yeah. Thanks for the question, Rajesh. Obviously, our hiring statistics can tell us how we're doing in terms of filling jobs with greater diversity, but our retention statistics or our turnover statistics will tell us how good a job we're doing at keeping diverse people in the company and in their roles. And there's a woman, Renee Myers, she's, I believe, the head of diversity at Netflix now. I saw her speak numerous times in my career, and she described diversity versus inclusion in the following way. She said, diversity is being invited to the party, but inclusion is being asked to dance. And, you can be invited to the party, but feel very unwelcome. You can feel out of sorts and not quite sure how to operate in the environment. So inclusion matters greatly for every company who strives to have success and diversity in the long run. And there are a host of things. Obviously, company surveys can get at deeper questions beyond just diversity. They can get at questions of inclusion. Many companies, including my prior employer, we utilized employee resource groups for different cohorts. And as a US-based company, we had groups that for all sorts of people. So for the Asian community, for the LGBTQ plus community, for the Latino community, for the Black community, for women in leadership, actually. And there were many, many more. I was actually the executive sponsor of one of these employee resource groups for our Latino employees and also for allies. And those groups serve purposes that I think are twofold. One, they create a safe place for someone to go and talk about the particular challenges they may face, in that case, as a Latino employee in a company where you're very much the minority, but also to talk about how to further one's career in a way that's really authentic to who you are. But it also invited allies in to be part, so you didn't have to be Latino. I'm not Latino, and I was the executive sponsor. But you could be a member of this group because you're an ally and you want to provide support and work yourself as an individual to create a more inclusive environment. So those are just some examples of things that companies can do to help drive a much stronger environment that is truly inclusive.
Thank you, Martha. The next question is for Nandini. Nandini, the question is, how can I show I'm ready for the next level leadership as a woman trying to grow? Considering the expectations from day-to-day job, it seems too daunting at times to go extra and show our readiness.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I can completely relate to that because as a woman, I go through this many times. I think obviously first is about performance, right? I mean, so there is no substitute for that. So performance has to be the first evidence in itself. But many a times, women focus so much on performance that they forget the rest. I think just be comfortable in vocalizing your expectation. I think I have learned it the hard way. There could be times, like I said, in a situation where your manager understands that they always look out for the best, for you in terms of career opportunities. But as you move up, it might not be the case because at senior levels, you will have to pitch for what you want. Which is not something women do very naturally, but just to vocalize it. When you believe you're ready, when you believe you want that promotion or the extra responsibility or that new position, just go in there and say, to your manager to say, I believe I'm there. These are the things, why I believe I'm ready for it. And I would like to be given a shot at it. And I think it's extremely important for women to believe that vocalizing it. There's nothing wrong in it. It's just that it is men do it all the time. Many of them do it. Women shy away from doing it, but it is something women should get comfortable with. Go in there, tell your manager why you want this and what you've done.
Absolutely can't agree with you, Nandini more. And as a recruiter at heart, I would add: don't wait for a formal opportunity. Have an informal conversation whenever the chance happens, and whenever you think you are ready to even have the first conversation. So, absolutely, completely agree. Next question is for Aruna. Aruna, how can companies ensure that D&I initiatives become integral to their DNA, and hence immune to circumstantial and uncontrollable challenges like the pandemic? Oh, wow. Great question.
Thank you, Rajesh. In my view, D&I should never be an initiative. I think the minute you call it an initiative, you've just kind of lost the plot. At Infosys, what we have done is we have actually called out our intent to be an inclusive organization in the code of conduct. So respecting each other is an important tenet in the Infosys code of conduct that actually outlines our diverse audience, people from different backgrounds, and the inclusion that we give every employee. So first, don't view D&I as an initiative. The second is, I think, the ability to provide an inclusive environment, especially when talent is your biggest asset, is critical to everything that you do. As I was listening to my fellow panelists speak about so many things, there were questions around performance. I went back to this observation that Martha made. She said, when you're looking at identifying top talent, there is a piece around performance and getting the job done. There are other dimensions around how do people look up to you? How do you actually create a culture where others can also thrive and develop? So there are so many facets to leadership that it's important for everyone to consider. So I think this very single focused, this my view is meritocracy is another abused term, especially in corporations. And I think the definitions of meritocracy need to be broadened, need to be inclusive in themselves. So first, embed D&I in your code of conduct, in who you are, in the ethos of the organization, and make sure all your practices, policies continue to live up to that expectation in the code of conduct. And that's when you're not reacting to every situation that possibly arises. Yeah, be genuine about the interventions that you actually make them happen. I want to go back to what Lara said. I'd love to be known as a kind manager. And guess what? I'm going to teach the world that I can be successful. So I think a lot is changing, and the ability of an organization to continue to rethink. And that's why I said in my, in my opening remark that I'm going to challenge organizations around the world to simply rethink their definitions of equity. And I think it starts there. That will allow you to ride through any situation. That's my view, Rajesh.
No, fantastic, Aruna. Your first sentence that D&I cannot be initiative or should never be considered as an initiative. It has to be the DNA of the organization. So well said. Lara, this question is a little more specific about the safety at workplace. How can workplaces be more safer for women, especially in situation where someone may be feeling threatened or unsafe in the larger working environment?
Yeah, it is very scary, and I'm sure that we've all been through something in our careers. How many women I've talked to, and something has happened, and they didn't feel they had someone to go to. I recently had a situation in my studio, and I'm very glad that people felt they could come. They could talk to their peers, to myself. I think again, this is it so much comes down to the organization and the support. And I think that the fact that we're having these conversations, it's really shedding light on what truly needs to be done. Organizations need to take a responsibility. And I think it is even harder now. There were many now that we're home, things can still happen, even though you are not in a workplace and there's no one around to see it. So I do think that we as leaders need to check in with our people. We need to constantly monitor what is going on. I always say I have a good sniffer. You need to know who is around, who is at risk, who's vulnerable, who is trustworthy. And I do think that us as leaders, we need to make sure that our people have a very safe work environment. And I think that, again, there are many HR policies and courses and skills and so many things that we put forward as an organization at Infosys to try to make this the safest work environment that we can have. But it must be thought about all the time.
Yeah, absolutely, Nara. Martha, quick question. This is more personal to you. You made a transition at the leadership level from one organization to another. So share your experiences. How did that go? But more importantly, how do you think we can make hiring organizations more welcoming and enabling by design to women joining at any level?
Yeah, it's a great question. So one, very fortunate in joining Infosys after a 35-year career at Vanguard, and Infosys being such a people-oriented, welcoming place. Everyone at Infosys is truly so helpful, and I have not encountered a single person who wasn't willing to give me their time for a catch up and helping me start to understand their part of the organization, their own career journey, their thoughts on my team and my role. So joining Infosys for all of those reasons has gone really smoothly. And I would also say it takes having a boss who is really available for you. And I've been quite fortunate. Mohit has been as available as I could possibly ask him to be, whether I have a small, quick question and I send him a WhatsApp chat, at a strange hour, or I just need some of his time to run an idea past him. And then all of our regularly scheduled weekly connection time. So that's all really been to my advantage and help my entry, I think, be smooth. But I think broadly speaking, if I were bringing in a senior person or a person into a leadership role into my organization from outside of the company, what would I do? I would really create a roadmap for them of a couple of things. One, who are the people that they really need to know to do their job well, and who should they connect with quickly? Then I'd create another list of names of people who would serve as what I would call maybe their organizational guides, maybe not crucial to their day-to-day job success, but people who really understand Infosys and who could be helpful to them. And then I'd also think through what are all of the standing meetings and committees and other groups that gather that this person should be a part of. And in a company as big and complex as Infosys, that can be a pretty long list. But because there's nothing worse than sort of being left out of an important meeting that you actually belong in. And this all sounds really simple, but if you map all of those things out for your new person upon their arrival, you're putting into their hands, and now they can take some control and start to get time with all of those people and make sure they're in those right places. So it's a simple thing to do, but it really can make a big difference in the early days for someone joining an organization.
Thanks, Martha. No, a good checklist of how do you welcome and enable an individual coming into the organization. Thanks for that. Nandini, our last question coming in is advancing diversity and inclusion primarily boils down to leadership buy-in and development. How the leaders of the organization can be made more accountable and self-motivated to invest in diverse talent development.
This is a great question, and this is a challenge which organizations across the world, I'm sure, is facing, because this boils down to the culture, the culture of the organization. Because the only way you can make everyone accountable is if they believe this is valued and this is really role model in the organization, and this is coming top down. Going back to what Aruna said, D&I cannot be an initiative. It is something that we believe in. It's part and parcel of who we are and how we behave as an organization. This is, we can create many mechanisms in place. I can create a performance management calendar. I can put in talent development conversations. I can create cadence around it. I can send business partner HRs behind these leaders to get it done. But unless and until you make this part of the culture, and making it a part of the culture happens only when this is top down. The topmost leader in the company believes in it. He or she role models it. And therefore, every single level below that also believes they need to do something similar. Like I said, this is not going to be easy. This is a challenging one for many, many corporations. Answer to this is really the change in the culture and change in the core belief system of the organization towards an initiative or a cause like this.
Thank you so much, Nandini, for that answer. And thank you to Martha, Lara, Aruna, and Nandini for having such an insightful discussion, sharing your own personal experiences wherever relevant. I'm going to quickly try and wrap this up for everyone, but feel free to add comments which I might miss. First, I think the most important lesson or the pointer I took is be yourself and allow others to be themselves, right? Because the fundamental nature of an inclusive workplace is everybody feels comfortable about themselves and they bring their whole self to the organization. Second, practice more self-care. And I think especially more and more relevant during the pandemic times. If you can take care of yourself, you can take care of others as leaders. Practice empathy, design for inclusivity. Some great examples coming from Nandini and Aruna about how do you design the organization initiatives to ensure inclusivity and diversity, fostering diversity. Continued learning, and last but not the least, 2 points. One, which Aruna mentioned, diversity and inclusivity is not an initiative. It has to be the DNA of the organization. Second, as Lara said, be a kind manager, be kind. And I think that really concludes the summary of this discussion for me. Thank you everyone for participating. And to the wider audience, feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to share our initiatives, learn from you, and create a larger inclusive corporate work environment. Thank you so much.